Welcome to RHI's Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today we are here with Jason Swanson, Sales Director, PatronScan, a leading identification system for security in nightlife venues. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Jim?
Good, good. Well, unfortunately, it's not a Motivation Monday, but I hope that we'll be able to be motivated by some of the things that you say and the information that you share. Um, so, this is a unique field that you're in, and it's a kind of an evolving specialty in terms of technology and technology companies. How did you end up getting into this? Where are you from, and what's your like early background that led you to make a decision that this is what I want to do?
I've been with PatronScan for about 3 years, and before that, I was 17 years with a technology company. Specializing on the innovation space, document retention, security, workflow automation. So I've always kind of been fascinated about innovation. So I think that's kind of what always being able to do something better. Status quo has never been part of my makeup. I'm always looking for like how can we improve, how can we get better. So technology is just kind of one of those things that gets us there a little bit faster. So it's been a fascinating ride so far, and I'm looking for the next part of the chapter.
Now, I know that even with credit card purchases, now you just tap your credit card and it has a chip in it, and you know, instantaneously you're paying for something. I remember the days you used to get a book every week that you had to look to find the fraudulent credit cards. But today, the technology has just caught up with that. But ID scanning has not been around for a really long time. So, how do you trace the history of this technology?
Well, it's interesting. It's far removed from the days where you're in your dorm and like a piece of paper didn't even have a picture on it, as we talked about earlier. These are now becoming very, very sophisticated fake IDs. So again, the history of it is, back in the day, it was pretty easy. People would just put a little put some blackout, put some marks on it, and do their best to get through it, or that kind of thing. But now it's become so sophisticated. So I will say this: fake IDs are very rampant. Right now, there's estimated between 7 to 10 million new fake IDs are flooding the market every year.
Mhm.
And so why is that? Well, it's because they're cheap, they're easy to get, and near perfect. I mean, the human eye has a real tough time doing it. And I'll tell a quick story to kind of really sum that up. Is actually at Philadelphia when I was there with the RHI Sociable City Summit. I actually went out one of the nights and met one of the local, went to one of the establishments, and this 20-year veteran doorman, ex-Marine, was sitting there collecting IDs, and we got chatting about it. And he was asking what I did. I told him about the ID scanning, and he goes, "Oh, I think I'm pretty good at this." And I'm like, "Absolutely." I go, "Here's a stack of IDs. Just let me know how many you think are fake, and give them back to me. Just remember, I watched you let in all these people looking at the ID for 10 seconds, but take your time." So he's out there with the flashlight. He's looking at it with the lights up there, and comes back to me in two separate piles about even. And the funny thing was, every one of the IDs were fake.
Hmm.
So he was just threw his hands up in the air and goes, "You know what? I've been doing this a long time." He goes, "I need help. It's just that difficult." So when we look at the history of ID scanning, it's because the IDs are getting so sophisticated, so good. You need help. It's you can't do it alone anymore. There's so many things to look at. So we actually put out forensic scanners where it scans the front and back of the ID, controlled lighting, which is very important, so we can see those micro flaws or pixel imperfections to start doing it. And again, crowdsourcing known fakes, and no better industry than the nightclub industry to kind of help us build those templates. So that's kind of the history of it. I think the evolution became into the safety aspect, which was the next level. Now that you got these people in your establishment, we look at it and we get the information back that 95% of these incidents are caused by the 1% of the people. So people always had their piece of paper with their note, "Don't let this guy in," or a Polaroid up on the wall, which is very, very difficult to manage. You got new staff coming in and out. So just imagine this has just got a super memory on it. If you've been someone that's caused some trouble, sexual assault, some major abuse, fighting, all that kind of stuff, you have the ability now to get notified if that person shows up. So in essence, giving you back the power to your own venue to kind of keep it in a better state and safer for everybody. So that was a pretty big thing. I mean, one of the quotes that came back to us is, the best and worst things about running a bar are the people that run through your door. So again, if you can make sure that those people are the ones that are there for the right reasons to have the most fun, that's what you want to do. And this is in great alignment with our HI, because again, it's about safe and vibrant cities, keeping things going. So we felt that we lined pretty good with that and giving the power back to the business. At the end of the day, these scanners become a prevention and a accountability tool on compliance and on safety.
I've been looking at this for a number of years, but I know that I've seen where there's ways using camera technology for just monitoring people coming in and out, but that there are some companies that try to connect that information. And I would imagine with your technology, and especially if you have a lot of venues within an area that are using the technology, there's a potential where people could tap into information that could help them to decide where to go. I mean, if you're keeping track of people coming in, you might know the mix of people by age or by gender at different times. And if there was a way to tap into that information for a district, it could influence where people go or how they socialize, knowing that, hey, this place has, 2-to-1 ratio of women or a 2-to-1 ratio of men. I might want to go there. Do you ever see that the way that this technology is used could actually begin to be integrated more into a marketing methodology?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually funny you mentioned that, because that is actually an app that we built a few years ago that was very similar to that. It's evolved on, and there's a lot of other ones out there that kind of do similar type things. But yeah, once you have the data, again, anonymous data, we're not talking about everybody's specific information, because that's very, very strictly, adhered to, making sure that it's taken care of. But once you have some of that data, so again, you speak about gender. Obviously, the gender is in there. Again, we're also in progressive states where gender is genderless options, are making sure that we have that, because again, it's different states, different focuses on that kind of thing. But if you do have it, yes, you got the ability to do that. You have their demographics from a zip code point of view, so you know where they're coming in from. So you have some ideas on the times that they come in. So again, you can staff appropriately. You can try to go, okay, we're getting heavy at 9 o'clock. What if we did some special to get them in at 7 o'clock? And all this is what's cool is that you're getting all this notified to your phone. And so even if you're a business owner and you're not at the place, you are getting constantly updated as to your capacity counts. Again, in the COVID era, capacity is even more strictly adhered to. So you're getting all that information. The notification, capacity counts. The other interesting thing is you can start doing in the promoter tracking. So one of the things is a lot of people have employed promoters to kind of help fill their venue. So you'll go to taxi services or Uber or Lyft, and you go to all these different services and you kind of throw them some money to, hey, can you bring some people to my venue? There is rampant with not knowing who's actually doing a good job or not. So when you do that through the system, it's immediately they're linked to you, and now you start gamifying your results, even using your staff as a lot of staff is meant to help fill your venue. So this is a way to go, kind of get a real insight as to who's helping build your business, and then really supporting them from a financial point of view, and then getting rid of or not worrying about the people that aren't really driving business to you. So it's a really good tool. And then if you added to it, I'd say VIP management, membership management, guest lists, all of that is integrated into a system that's a one-stop shop.
Now, when I was at a International Nightlife Association conference in Ibiza, and I met with somebody, and they had developed this app for ticket sales, so that you would buy your ticket to get into the club, and it would be on your phone, and then your credit card information and other information was in the same app. And when you went in the venue, if you saw somebody and you wanted to buy them a drink, you could send a note to the bartender and they would send a drink over to that person and it would all be charged to you. And then they would be able to monitor how much you would spend based upon this app. And my question, because I know your app doesn't necessarily, your system doesn't necessarily integrate, or maybe it does, with the venue to where they could start to correlate um, individuals with their sales so that you would begin to pick out, like you said, a VIP, but not just who comes frequently, but how much they spend. Is that something that's possible or doable, or is there too much privacy issues?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to kind of jump on is one thing is we have the ability to obviously integrate into different systems. We are a custom development shop that also has that does ID scanning, right? So we have the ability, but at the same time, because of strict adherence to privacy, we are very, very sensitive to that to make sure that some of that information doesn't overlap. But at the same time, once it's an opt-in point of view, so they're a member or something like that, where you again engage them to be a member, then there's some other things that you can start doing as far as putting in their spending habits and what do they do in there. Again, it's an information tool that gives you the information right at your fingertips. So I say that kind of dancing around it a little bit, but at the end of the day, absolutely, as long as it's strictly adhered to privacy regulations, there is some integration capabilities that we could leverage for sure.
Now, I know in California and in other states, there's been a legislation that restricts what kind of information you can collect and what information you can store. But at the same time, there is ways in which information that you can collect in the event that there's a crime, whether it be an active shooter or some kind of terrorist act or some kind of disturbance that leads to the police coming in, that the police can use the technology, particularly if it's integrated with cameras, to really pinpoint key factors in the investigation. Um, but states then restrict how much you can collect and how much you can retain. So how have you, and I know in some jurisdictions, I know in Australia, there are cities that make it a requirement of certain types of venues to have your system in place. And there are venues who may not want to use that system, or the concerns about privacy, or government comes in and says, this is all that you can collect. And therefore it limits some of the potential that the venue can use your technology for its full value and benefit. So how do you fight these fights? How do you balance this privacy issue with, you know, you're really just collecting demographic data that can be used rather than specific information, or you are collecting specific information in the event that there's a crime. You can access your scan to find out when a person came into the venue or
Yeah.
when they left.
So I think the biggest line I'd say is safety does not come at the expense of privacy with us. We take both very, very seriously. So when it comes to it, again, you got to be in compliance, and we work all over the world. So we're not just a North American or US based kind of solution. So yes, we're in Australia, we're in the UK, and you can imagine there's GDPR regulations, there's PIPEDA in Canada, there's CCPA in California. All of these things are something that we're aware of. So yes, we only collect a very limited subset of data off the ID. So we don't even get the whole ID. So we only do it for validation. We take the name, your date of birth, the picture, and the zip code. That's it. So there's just those four things. And the only reason we get that information is for just in case, if something happened, that we're able to search you up. And again, there's people that would love to have more information, like such as the police. It just makes it their job a little easier. But this is enough to get someone in after the fact if something happens. Again, there's a big push on awareness. So there's stickers, signs everywhere that we put that this is what we're keeping it. This is why we're keeping it. And it's all for the safety. It's all about safety, but at the same time, none of the data is hosted on the unit. It's all protected. It's under locking, where it's under very, very strict adherence to that. And, the data never can be sold. You know, I saw a documentary where it said if something's free, then you're the how they make money. We charge for our service, so
Mhm.
we make our money that way. And if we didn't do it, you'd be out of business pretty quick without protecting people's data. So that all to be said, that it's all super in strict adherence to state, city, jurisdictions all over the U.S., Canada, and beyond. Every jurisdiction has a little bit different retention period, but again, data on non-offending pages is protected and secured, and they'd be permanently deleted in 90 days or less, depending on the jurisdiction. Just because, again, it'd be even deleted sooner if it wasn't for the fact that it is, like you just said, a very powerful investigative tool for serious crimes, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking sexual assaults. A lot of those women do not come forward immediately after something happening. So that'd be a pretty sad state that they'd have an ability. And again, right now you would have potentially you'd have a video camera, black and white CCTV, somebody with a hoodie, could have been anybody. They don't have there's no way to know. We've had exact situations where they went back to the scan history and was able to pull that person within less than an hour and actually had them before they even got home.
Mhm.
So they were able to get that person. So again, really good stories, really good talking about it. Again, we talk about prevention, we talk about accountability. This is, on the accountability side.
I remember years ago when you guys were first starting out and were in Edmonton, the police were able to tap into your system and be able to pinpoint known gang members, and not necessarily to inform the venue, but to be able to send like a gang unit in. Is that something that still happens, or that interconnectivity between the police being able to monitor what you're doing?
In very specific situations and very highly regulated situations. So with Edmonton specifically, there's a very highly regulated solution for that. But what ends up happening is it's a silent notifications. We'll call it a person of interest, that they put in. Again, part of their probation is they're not allowed to go to a bar. So it's one of those situations where it's just a silent notification to the police, the local police, and they to come in without. So again, no, it doesn't create any confrontation. It's literally the police just walk in, grab the individual, and walk them out. Again, if that was now a doorman or a business owner trying to intercede into a very dangerous gang member, that's a situation they don't want to be in. So
Mhm.
again, that is jurisdiction based and based on a very strict laws and regulations based around that. But yes, it is something, and we want to actually escalate that program across more. We're having some good conversations about missing persons and human trafficking they go out on APBs and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
we're talking about having that thing. And again, it's not be very clear. It's not a send out and everybody knows about it. It's only if that person or that ID scans at a PatronScan place, a PatronScan venue, then that would be a silent, again,
Mhm.
nobody getting silent notification to maybe save a girl or a missing person, or prevent a serious felony or otherwise. So
Mhm.
that's where we're heading with that, and and we want to kind of expand that as we go forward, because we do work very closely with many police departments and had huge success on cleaning up cities, cleaning up neighborhoods, based on this approach.
Yeah.
You spoke with Sacramento, Tina, specifically on code compliance. Like they have 38 plus venues all using our units, and so the breadth and the more saturated a city becomes, the more powerful the accountability tool becomes, and the more safety is then given towards it. So many situations. Real quickly, Vancouver, 95 shootings in the downtown core back in 2011, down to I think 5 in the last year.
Mm.
So, and a lot of it they directly contribute to cleaning up their downtown. So
We're running close to our time, but one question I did have is, obviously you have this whole um, vaccine passport debate, and I know in Broadway, Bruce Springsteen's going to kick off the Broadway show, but they're going to require proof of vaccination. And so this will become one of those issues, I'd imagine, that might have to be integrated in some way with your system, but it also requires access to medical information about individuals, which really further complicates the privacy issue. What's the field, your whole field? I'm sure there are your competitors and other people that are in your industry. What's the scuttlebutt about how to verify vaccination? And will it be necessary for some government entity to come in and say, this is the authoritative proof, and they provide you enough information, but not so much that you can access other private medical information about individuals?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because we've actually been in some really good conversations, even around the rapid testing. So the rapid testing, even integrating that plus the vaccine passport. Um, it's a very, very I would say it's actually not as hard as you think, but it is something that's very sensitive. Obviously, you don't get access to everything. So the real rudimentary thing is it's basically you would just do a quick API or a quick connection to see yes, no. It's not you get all their information, all their records. It's just basically a very strictly adhered to secure line that's just saying, do they have one? Yes or no. That's the only integration. Then it would be bounced back to you on your mobile device and given a QR code, maybe a rolling QR code. So again, everybody's coming up with different ideas around this, but it's pretty simple. It's just to verify with the record, quick yes or no. Do you have it, or did you do it, or when did you do it? And then all you would see, so no one on the front end would get anything other than like a QR code per se, and you would just scan that and it would be good to go. So
Mhm.
I think it can be done very, very easily, highly adoptable. And again, like I said, it's with the rapid testing as well, the PCR quality testing, not the antigen per se, but the one that actually is like lab quality, but it's
Mhm.
done in less than 25 minutes. So even if you didn't have a vaccine, you could get a rapid test. That could be
Mhm.
another alternative.
To
And
doing
I
that,
think
yeah.
my opinion, yeah, and my opinion on the whole thing is you got to give options to everybody. You got to give all the different parameters to it. I think if they only do one, that's going to be a mistake because there are people that, for health reasons, can't get a vaccine per se. They
Yeah.
just that will be against them. So now are they not allowed to do something? You just got to make sure you have all these backup plans to go with it. So it's going to be more complicated, and there's it's fits and starts as I see through different cities are doing it, and different airlines and different use cases, I guess. But we're in the mix and having those conversations, on a weekly, daily basis.
So, and in your opinion, we talked earlier about, using DOS on our computers and how quickly technology has evolved. If we're to have this conversation 18 months from now, with this whole kind of technology of identification and scanning and camera technology and fingerprints and iris and all of those other ways, where do you see the whole scanning system going? Do you think it will become more biometric? Like now you can get onto your phone with your iris or with a fingerprint. Do you think that eventually your driver's license may become substituted with I mean,
Yeah,
I go through the global entry now. You don't even scan your passport anymore. You look in the camera and they know that it's you.
yeah.
So do you see that as eventually where this might be?
Yeah, we've had some many conversations with some very big names that I can't disclose, but at the end of the day, yes, we are going to be doing more towards mobile driver's license, digital driver's license, which again, you're going to have that access to your phone either through your facial or through your through biometrics. I mean, there's a lot of them. You can use a wrist scan. There's so many different ones that based on your veins and all this kind of stuff. But yes, we are going to eventually get off of a printed thing, not for a long time, in my opinion. Like, and long could be relative. It could be 5, 6 years because there's still going to be legacy that you're going to have to accept.
Hmm.
But I will say that Utah is already going forward with a mobile driver's license being rolled out as is. Wyoming, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Arizona. They're all literally in process of the mobile driver's license, which we're already in conversations with. The cool thing about it is it's now looks like it's an ISO standard. So now it can be adopted worldwide, because that's a big thing is you have to be able to, it's one thing to have it in your own state, but if you can't use it across the border, then what is
What are you
that?
gonna
It's not
do?
very
Yeah.
useful.
How are you gonna
So
get through the airport security? Yeah.
that's exactly right. So, but those are happening fast and furious. We're
Mhm.
already ahead of that. And, you know, we're already getting our online version. We're getting our, so we're ready. And in Australia, we're already integrated to that extent where it's all, you know, there's a lot of digital that it's going on there.
Mhm.
So yes, it's happening, and it's happening faster than we think, but there's still going to be the legacy cards still have to be adopted for some time yet, but they'll be encouraging people to, sign up to a digital ID instead of a hard copy. Just like when you go to your bank and you try and get the statements, they say, do you want it mailed to you or want it electronic, right?
Electronic, yeah.
It's gonna start moving towards it.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think one thing to mention, I just want to put it out there, is that the facial recognition side of it is coming. As far as the technology, it's getting better and better and better. We personally don't engage in it yet, but we do see it as a value at some point. Just, with jurisdictions, some of them even outlawing it and different things, we stay away from it to a certain extent, doing a little bit more videos type stuff. But, I do see that technology getting there. I'm in very high level conversations with the Document Security Alliance, educating us on how far it's come and how far it's getting. And again, there's some documentaries coming out. Coded Bias is the one that sticks out to me. We're talking about the biases on gender and race. So all that stuff for us needs to be a little more ironed out before we're 100%, jumping into that pool. But same time, knowing that it is right around the corner from being, really successful.
good. Well, good. Well, this has been really informative, Jason, and you certainly know your stuff, and it seems like you're right on top of the trends and where things are going. So, but I really appreciate you taking the time, and we'll look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thanks so much for having me. Again, we love being part of the RHI family. That's what I call it, because
Hmm.
we get to bump elbows with everybody. We get to see them every year, and then it's really really cool to see the three groups, from the venue owners to the government officials to the police forces, all coming together to create that safe, vibrant nightlife that we all know we need, and more so now than ever. Humans obviously crave that community, crave that togetherness and connection. And there's no more evidence than in Boston, where you
Hmm.
see them when they opened up, people were hugging, kissing each other, and then also
Hmm.
fighting. So
Yeah.
it's back when we get all three back together in Boston. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to that time, and we just know that to have a vibrant city, you need it to be safe too. So we're
All
here
right.
to help.
Well, thanks a lot, and we look forward to working with you.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Have a
You
good
have a good
day.
one.